Good afternoon, everyone. How are we all? I don't know if winter's hit you lot yet, wherever you are, but it has here. And it's Baltic. Let's talk about Anthony Yarde and David Benavidez. Before we get on to Yarde and Benavidez in the fight, let's just talk a bit about Tunde first, shall we? A lot is talked about Tunde. A lot is talked by a lot of people, and kind of justifiably so. Tunde is just, I don't know if Anthony Yarde, I don't think, like at this point it's way too far gone, but I don't know if at some point in Anthony Yarde's career it would have made a big difference. I can only think, yes, if he had left Tunde. There was times in the corner, after the round where Benavidez had him up on the ropes and Yarde had hold of one of his arms and Benavidez landed about, I don't know, 12 hooks, 12 left hooks. When Yarde went back to the corner, Tunde said something like, "You're a lion, and you're a warrior. Don't let him throw 12 hooks unanswered. Like no shit, Sherlock." And then he went. This is the work now, and this is the work now, and the fuck does that mean? Like literally, what the fuck kind of advice is that? Don't let him land 12 hooks unanswered. Oh, okay, boss. I thought that was good. Let me do that unanswered. But you just, Tunde, man. There's word that Yarde didn't spar a lot, even, or doesn't spar a lot now. But regardless, I think had he been with Tunde, yeah, he could have been, marginally better. I think he'd have probably been better in the fights with a better corner. But, we're just seeing Yarde's level. And this pains me to say, because anyone who's watched this channel for long enough knows I'm a big Anthony Yarde fan. I really like Anthony Yarde, and I did really rate him in a lot of areas. We seem to have, we knew his level, didn't we? We knew his level, fringe world title, sort of world level challenger, certainly that. But what are the other best wins? Lyndon Arthur? I mean, that isn't saying a lot, is it really? And like I said, this pains me to say, whenever you say anything sort of objectively that could be considered negative, you get called a hater. And if anyone's watched me long enough, I'm a big Anthony Yarde fan. So I was gutted, really. And this, to me, was kind of like out of the three challenges, out of the Kovalev, the Benavidez, and Benavidez, this was his worst performance. To me, they didn't look like a great deal left at the top level. Sergio Mora throughout kept sort of saying, "Oh, this is really good tactics by Anthony Yarde. Take him into the second half and not letting Benavidez throw more than one or two answer shots before answering back." Going on his last two, world title challenges, it's evident that Anthony Yarde is trouble early, he's dangerous early, and he fades and loses in the second half of the fight. And then that's sort of even more pronounced when you get a guy in Benavidez who's relentless, got very little muscle density to speak of, which means he's super fit. He hasn't got a big muscle body to fuel. He can go all night. I can't remember the round. Was that round 6? Was that the end when they finished in round 7? And that was one of the rounds where Tunde was given like sort of shit, corner advice. And the referee came over and asked if he was all right. And Yarde wasn't convincing. And to me, he'd already lost the fight. You could see in his face, he didn't want to be there. He was noticeably bothered. He got caught straight in the nose a couple of times. May have fractured the nose, whatever. Regardless, splattered everywhere. Blood was. And Yarde didn't really look comfortable. For me, for the third round on, he kind of didn't look comfortable. And certainly after the 6, all the fight, or what fight it was left, had all gone. It had all left him. And the fight was over. But Tunde said to the referee, "No, he's fine. It's nothing. It's fine. He's fine. Come on, Ann. Lions in the camp. Warrior." It's a shame to see. Yarde was... A lot of people thought the tactics were good. I thought they were in part wrong, because there was so much of the time. This is the difference between the two, one of the two in the fights. Yarde was sort of arm punching for a lot of the time. There was nothing there. His hips and shoulders didn't move. He didn't dig his feet. And they were like, boom, boom, boom. All arm shots. That was Yarde. Benavidez on the other hand. I mean, there was just there was one intent on there and destroying, and one who didn't really look like he'd come to win. And as I said, I fucking hate to say that about Anthony Yarde because I'm a fucking big fan, and I just don't know if Yarde knew. And as he said afterwards, he'd have to go away and I think, I'm not sure if he was half in that mind in this fight that he kind of knows what was there is not all there anymore. And this was one last throw. But I was surprised that he didn't really go caution to the wind. When you've got a guy like Benavidez who's relentless, throws punches in bunches, relentless, comes forward. If you're going to back off the whole time and go backwards, and then if you're going backwards, Yarde hasn't got particularly great feet. He doesn't move wonderfully well or that quick. You know, when you look at like a Bivol boxing on the back foot, it's artistry. It's a thing of sublime beauty. It's technical greatness and genius of the very highest level. Yarde going backwards and arm punching on the way backwards, so offering nothing. So Benavidez knows he can just fucking walk straight through the front door. And, you know, there was times where Yarde would throw, as he was moving backwards, he would throw a lead right hand with nothing behind it because he's moving backwards. And it was kind of sometimes at best an arm shot. So it kind of posed no threat to Benavidez. There was no deterrent for Benavidez walking forward. I'm not sure you can deter Benavidez at the best of times, but if you're going to walk backwards and sort of the only deterrent coming your way is kind of half-hearted arm shots or lead right hands thrown from the backhand, you know, you don't really offer any defence. And as I said before, there was a lot of... And they were just, you know, against other people, they can sort of... You can use the jab like that or use those combinations like that, sort of offset, keep them offset. But when it's rhythmic and it's constant, and that's all that's coming back, there essentially is nothing coming back. And someone like Benavidez is like... walk straight open the front door, walk straight in and start smashing the place up. And that's what he did. It was just very, very odd. And I don't know if they thought that would be enough to get Ant into the second half of the fight. And that's when the second half of the fight, he would come on strong. But he's not been able to do that against at this level twice already. And it's lost him fights. And they opted for that. Now, is this Tunde? Is this Tunde's plan? Was that even the plan? Or was Anthony just discarded very early on? Sort of kind of, you know, tasted it early and kind of didn't want it. And it was like retreat mode, survival mode, whatever. But it was just not enjoyable to watch someone, a fighter who I've always been a fan of and I've always liked, look like that. It was really, you know, it looked like man against boy. You know, and you'd expect that for me, the guys who look like Anthony Yarde and the guys who look like Benavidez. But that's the difference. Physiques mean nothing, you know, and in a lot of cases in boxing, a physique like that can be a hindrance. They talked about how sort of narrow Benavidez's shoulders were, and that helped aid him throwing punches. It does. Short distance to travel. Just a real shame. Benavidez, on the other hand, proven now at light heavyweight, he is still got it. He's the real thing at light heavyweight. Wouldn't a fight between Benavidez and Benavidez be an absolute fucking, like, you got two guys there, neither of them are going to go backwards. And I tell you what, again, if you're a follower on my channel, you'll know my two favourite fights by an absolute mile, and for the reasons I talked about in those videos, were my two favourite fights of probably the last 5 years. For both fighters, because I'm a massive fan of both. Benavidez, depending on what's left, Benavidez would be an absolute fucking boxing porn. Absolute boxing porn. Benavidez versus Benavidez would be fucking... That can't fail to be just action. And I tell you what, especially, and I talk about this a lot, you know, timing. Fighters on the way up, coming sort of against fighters sort of maybe at the top or slightly past their peak. Timing is everything. And I tell you what, looking at Benavidez, I'd make him slight favourite against Benavidez at this point. I think I would. not as proven as Benavidez. Well, I'm saying that. Don't know. There's more than one way of looking at that, but what a fight! What an absolute fucking fight that would be. Because you've just got two styles that are undeniable. You've got two forces of nature coming towards them. You've got a hurricane and a fucking tornado, and they're meeting in the middle. And then Benavidez versus Bivol. Well, there would be a problem, wouldn't there? What a problem for Benavidez. That would be the test, wouldn't it? Because could Benavidez deal with the sort of the technical greatness and the vast toolbox that Bivol has got? Who knows? Benavidez is great. He's great. One of the things I talk about a lot with fighters like this, I talk quite a lot about how your stance is, and balance is like so much of this game. And Benavidez can look very upright at times, very upright, almost European-esque, very straight up. Looks like his head's in the air a lot of the time. But he handles that really well. You never really see him taking more than a single shot. He might get hit with the odd straight right hand or whatever like that, but he gets his gloves up very well. But because he's straight up, it means that if you look at his stance, and he varies his stance, sometimes he widens it, sometimes he keeps it quite narrow. But the majority of the time, his head is, if you draw that line through his head, side on it, it's full in between his feet, which is exactly where you want it. And not many fighters kind of box that way or have their balance so good. But because he has that, because his balance is pretty much there most of the time, his feet are set correctly and his head is in the right place between them, meaning his balance is good, he can throw all those flurries. He's pretty much most of the time able to. He's positioned himself by the way his stance is well enough that he can offload at any time. Hasn't got to adjust his feet, hasn't got to pull his balance back, hasn't got to do any of that. He's there, set, head down the centre line, and he'll let go. Feet are planted, he can dig and he can push, dig his toes in. He's just a real problem. And the way that, if Yarde's plan was to come out and sort of box on the back foot, keep him away, that can seem great in theory and in idea, but when you've got a guy that is just gonna walk, and everything he throws is full, and he makes the noise as he's telling you that he's fucking every shot he's gonna throw, he wants to fucking put his hand through the back of your face. I mean, it's awesome to watch. He's fantastic, absolutely fantastic to watch, brilliant. And he mixes it up as well. He does mix it up. Throws the uppercut in when you're not expecting it. Sometimes switches and throws a 2-1. He does all sorts. It's just a joy. It's the sort of fighter you can watch all night long, isn't it? And like I said, a fight with Benavidez would be just fucking sign me up, take my money. That's one I would not mind paying pay-per-view for. But yeah, Anthony Yarde, where does he go? Well, unlucky for him, he's in one of the hottest divisions there is. And I'm again, I always say this, I'll never want to tell anyone when to retire. When I arrogantly enough am going to tell you to retire, no. But I look at it, I just think, where does Ant go? I don't know. And the problem is, and this has been talked about a lot, is Anthony Yarde has gone from 3 world title fights, which is the 3 title shots he's had have been, you couldn't pick better opposition at the time, could you? Kovalev, Beterbiev, and Benavidez. Luke Campbell had a tough run of world title shots as well, didn't he? Which was sort of kind of unlucky, but unfortunate that you don't get a bit of a better or a more winnable title shot. But Yarde has had that, and this is certainly nowhere near ranks above the first 2 on performance for him, because he looked a shadow, looked like the confidence had gone very early. Didn't look like a man in there who had a look on his face that said he could believe that he could win this fight. He didn't ever look like he believed that he didn't ever look like he believed he could win this fight. Not to me, which is unfortunate. So where does Yarde go? I don't know. He's earned good money. Like I say, God, because I've always been a Yarde fan, always really liked Yarde. And I don't think his loyalty to Tunde has done him any favours, if I'm honest. Whether that had been the difference between him winning those world title shots, no, probably not. There are levels, aren't there? And I think he's below that level. But Benavidez, what a journey this is going to be following Benavidez from now on. And at light heavyweight, he looks like he's got it to me. But there's some great fights out there for Benavidez, isn't there? Anyway, I'll see you all soon.